This is all that's left of the first comic book I ever owned. Marvel Comics Superhero Contest of Champions, #1. This was a 3-issue series, a mega series, by Marvel that featured almost all the Marvel superheroes in one series. It came out in 1982. I received this as part of a party favor, along with a Master of Kung Fu issue, #94, at a friend's birthday party. And I had never owned any comic books before then. I knew about comic book heroes like Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman, and I had read some comic books at a friend's house or a relative's house, but I'd never owned one until that time. And I don't think I could have asked for a better comic book to be my first comic book. And the reason why is because this series featured almost all the Marvel superheroes at that time in 1982. You want a good test of your Marvel expertise? Try naming every single character on this cover and see how you do. I'll give you the answers at the end of this video. This series was primarily written by Bill Mantlo, but also with support from Mark Gruenwald and Steve Gerber. It was penciled by Bob Layton and John Romita Jr., so we had some pretty big heavyweights working on this title. This series was originally slated to be published in 1980, in line with the 1980 Moscow Summer Olympics, but when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, they decided to shelve this project, and it came out in 1982. The premise of the story is really quite intriguing. All the superheroes from Earth are snatched and brought to this mysterious arena where you have two opponents, the Grandmaster and Elder of the Universe, and this mysterious purple-robed figure who you don't know anything about. What is at stake is the life of Grandmaster's brother, the Collector, who had been slain by Korvac in one of the issues of the Avengers. If the Grandmaster wins, the Collector's life would be restored. But if the purple robe figure wins, then the Grandmaster's life would be forfeit. So what they do is they choose 12 superheroes. And these 12 superheroes would form groups of 3, and then these teams of 3 would face off against each other. Marvel was using this opportunity to introduce a bunch of new characters and international characters. So you had Le Peregrine from France, Blitzkrieg from Germany, the Collective Man from China, and Shamrock from Ireland, of course. Now, they use this series to kind of promote some of their more popular titles, as well as maybe some of their lesser-known titles, just to give a little bit of exposure to these characters to different readers. And this is probably one of the best ways that they can do it. And I thought, how could they have not thought of this idea beforehand? Here you have Marvel, and DC for that matter, who have a huge universe of characters. And, you know, I'm sure comic book fans would have loved to see these characters, you know, fight each other and see who wins. And I mean, this is like the dream come true for a lot of comic book fans. Here you have like a whole bunch of different characters in a unique situation where they have to fight each other. And like, you never see that with superheroes, or you rarely see it, but never at this kind of scale. This series would be a success and a trendsetter for many reasons. First of all, it was a limited series, limited to just 3 issues, purposely. And this would spawn a number of different limited series going forward. Most notably, like Hercules would be the next one, and then the very popular Wolverine series done by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller. But there was also something else that was very interesting about this series. And let's take a closer look. So here's my 3-issue set. This is the first issue. This is also a newsstand. I actually really like the second issue cover featuring the Grandmaster and the Purple Robe opponent. And this is the 3rd issue, and the winner is Death. So at the back of each issue of Contest of Champions, there were short bios of all the major Marvel superhero characters. Only the superheroes and not the villains. And what I guess the popularity of that and the feedback that they got from the readers made Marvel create like a handbook, like the official handbook of the Marvel Universe that features more in-depth character bios of every single Marvel superhero and villain. And this was released in 1983, and it was so popular that they released another version in 1985. And the original series was 12 issues plus kind of an addendum, 3 issues like the Book of the Dead as well as equipment. Then in 85, they released this kind of deluxe version that included more heroes. And then, because this was still popular, in 94, they even produced this kind of like 3-ring binder punched loose leaf Marvel Universe. And if you want a good challenge, try to find a complete set of this. Some of these are not that hard to find, but some of the later issues of this run are very difficult. As well, DC also produced their own equivalent called Who's Who, and this one also features Lady Blackhawk, because I gotta have a Blackhawk appearance somewhere, right? And they also added updates with their Who's Who series, and these are pretty reasonably cheap, and actually they're a great character reference if you like that kind of stuff. I also want to show you a few of the pages inside just to give you a better idea of what these are like. So here you have like the Abomination. It has your origin, your first appearance, your height, your weight, and like their powers. And I always thought this was kind of cool. So especially the stuff about how strong they are. The Abomination is capable of pressing approximately 100 tons, which is very high. Like some of this stuff can get really technical. I mean, his legs are strong enough to enable him to leap a maximum height of 870 feet straight up in the air. I mean, that's kind of crazy. And then, there's like characters that not many people know or never heard of, like myself, like El Al-Gia, Archon, Arnim Zola, Ariel, even maps. So this has like the map of Asgard. Asgardians, Atlanteans. I also wanted to show you like the Avengers, all the members of the Avengers at that point. Historically. That's pretty cool. And even the details of Avengers Mansion. So, love this kind of stuff in terms of like the information provided. Anything you ever wanted to know about the Marvel Universe and their characters kind of provided in this series. And it has a nice wraparound cover. There you go. Marvel Universe. Okay, so back to the wager of Grandmaster and Purple Robe. Even though you only get a small glimpse of each character during the battles, I thought they did a pretty good job giving you an idea of what the character's like. Take Sunfire. He was a hothead who had a short stay in X-Men, and you could see that personality in his fight with Darkstar. You also get to see what She-Hulk was like in her early years. A hot-tempered, savage feminist who just doesn't hold back. I really like the banter between the characters. And looking back at it, maybe some of it wouldn't make the cut today. I mean, I don't think you can get away with calling French people frogs without getting into trouble. I don't know. So this series was also infamous because of a serious mistake that they made. And this is a warning. There's some spoilers ahead. Grandmaster's team is ahead 2-1 going into the final round. And apparently, the editors and the writers can't count. Because despite Shamrock's team winning and saying Grandmaster's team won 3-1, it was actually tied 2-2. They got the wrong team. I also think this was kind of a blown opportunity because, they were fighting over 4 globes. It should have been 5, so you had a definite winner or loser instead of a tie. But if you had a tie, you could have had this kind of playoff, a sudden death round, which I think would have been cool. Anyway, surprise, the opponent is revealed in the 3rd issue, and right there on the cover, and it is none other than Death herself. She says the Golden Globe of Life is an empty vessel and needs another being of equal power to power it. And despite the grumbling of the Grandmaster about how Death cheated, the Collector comes back from the dead. Despite the mistake, the series was still hugely popular. And you could see how this series would be a strong influence into a 12-issue series that was much more popular that would come down less than 2 years later, and that, of course, is Secret Wars. But that deserves another episode altogether. Does this hold up after 40 years? Well, for me, because this is the first comic book that I ever owned, sure, I actually still enjoy going back to this series and looking through it every now and then. Would I recommend it to a new collector to start off? Well, maybe an 11, 12-year-old kid like myself back then who had some interest in some of these characters, but this would be a fine introduction to a lot of the Marvel Universe. Do you remember reading your first comic book? Let me know about it in the comments below. Okay, let's go to the cover. Okay, let's start from the bottom, bro. You got Dazzler, Iron Man, Daredevil, Captain America, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, Hulk, Wasp, Spider-Man, Namor, Thor, Thing, Hellcat, Human Torch, Silver Surfer, Sasquatch, Cyclops. Over here you got the Fencer, Shamrock, Nightwing, Darkstar, Quasar, the Arabian Knight, Wolverine, Black Bolt, Angel, Talisman, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Falcon, Moon Knight, Wonder Man, Blitzkrieg, Hawkeye. You can tell from this head that's Storm. And this is Colossus. The wings over here is that French character Peregrine. Behind Hawkeye there with the chain is Power Man. And beside Power Man, you can kind of see this little tiny glowing fist. That's Iron Fist. The blue guy here is probably the Beast. And Mr. Bamf over here is Nightcrawler. How did you do? Thanks for watching. If you like this content, please comment, like, and subscribe. And until the next episode, read and enjoy your comic books.